Sorry about earlier.
No
I've been doing
worries.
so many live streams that
Hmm.
I just felt like with the amount of time that if I didn't see you by a
Yeah.
certain amount of time, I better click
Oh no,
over.
I know. I must have just missed you. I mean, I had the email open right after 10, and probably by the time I was getting an error message and then responding to you, yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't too long after 10, and then I spent over an hour. I saw the link to this reaction video, but I thought it was just scheduled for later. I didn't.
Oh,
It,
gotcha.
it didn't occur to me that this was going live
Yeah, I had
and
no
what you were
plan to
doing.
do it, but once I thought me and you weren't chatting, I decided to switch over to that. I think I'll give myself a policy from now on where if I'm doing a live chat, I'll give the person at least 10 minutes from the scheduled time. But anyways, sorry about that. So I don't have too much time,
Got it.
but let's do a little talk, and then what I'll probably do is this live stream will stay up as it is, but our talk I'll separately clip off, and put up as its own video. Um,
Okay, I think I can. I think I sort of prepared in my head that I can lay out my kind of main theses
yeah, let's do it. Go for it.
all at once, and then you can respond to it, and maybe a lot of people can think about it, and there can be a larger conversation later because I think it's a pretty large conversation.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
kind of narrow it down to three things. Uh, my first view is that there's a huge distinction between ethics and politics, um, where politics is not sort of like an automatic and direct application of your ethical conclusions about right and wrong, but politics is a largely separate philosophical position about what the generally most appropriate methods are of applying ethical conclusions and other conclusions that are just about like preserving a stable society given human psychology and facts about human social structure. And so not only with veganism but all sorts of ethical issues.
Mm-hmm.
um, that's the first view. This grew out of your abortion talk with some other guys, and I
Mm-hmm.
also have said for many years I've used this line: pro-choice is not an ethical stance; it's a political stance, a political belief,
Mm-hmm.
implying you can think many or even all abortions are very morally wrong, and still have the political view that what's best for society is to have the power to make those ethical decisions and put them into effect, um, localized in the hands of the pregnant woman and maybe family and a doctor, rather
Mm-hmm.
than the agents of the state and ultimately the police with their guns. Um, so that's just generally how I think about the relation between ethics and politics is a healthy society, a healthy enlightenment society has a very large gap between what people think is very morally wrong and what people think that it's appropriate to entrust the state uh,
Mm-hmm.
with violent force in order to impose in a sort of top down way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can you give me an example real quick? Or maybe all the examples if it's a short list on what laws the government should have in place to enforce our ethics or some ethics.
yeah, I mean, I don't really think I have a lot of expertise on this because it requires knowing a lot of facts about how the system works. But I think the main principle for saying that something should be criminalized, that is, imposed by a police force of the state, uh, is that society would break down into the bad kind of anarchy, into vigilantism and blood feuds in the absence of such a law. So if
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have laws against murder and robbery and rape, that kind of what you think of as like the prototypical instance of rape. If you didn't have laws against things like this, then somebody would do it to a member of somebody else's tribe or family or whatever, and there would immediately be retaliation. And then, as it's just common sense that when something is done to your group, you perceive it more strongly, and when something is done by your group against an out group, you perceive it more weakly, and you kind of make excuses for it. And this kind of bias leads to never-ending gang warfare or blood feuds. And this is, I guess, the kind of a Hobbesian sort of argument that the central the centralization of force for things like that play a role in ending these sort of cycles. But there are many other things that are, that some people believe are very immoral that don't have that characteristic. And I think in those cases, I understand the emotion of just wanting it to go away and almost wanting to do anything to make it go away. But we've got to realistically understand, that the word illegal. So I wanted to relate this to our position as vegan, what we're doing as vegan advocates. Very much of it is trying to get people to understand and not forget and not deny the reality behind the superficial, buying a pack of hamburger at the supermarket, or buying the bucket of fried chicken at KFC, and what that really means, what happens to get there. When you say the word illegal, it doesn't mean you snap your fingers and magically the bad thing disappears. Means you have to give the state a lot more power to have police with guns, go and bust down doors in the middle of the night and, hold people at gunpoint on the floor in front of their kids, and haul them off. And you have to have these prisons that then have an incentive to keep people there. And all of the spiraling collateral damage, and then if the populace doesn't want to stop doing the immoral thing, then you have incentive for organized crime to provide it. And then law enforcement needs more power to deal with that. And then if you don't change the public's moral standards first, if you don't lead with the elements of enlightenment, if the movement and the change doesn't have its essence in rational conversation and personal empathy and philosophical or religious kind of organic change in the population. And if the main way that it's attempting to be imposed is by the violent arm of the state, then very, very bad things can easily happen, even if the thing that you're trying to end is very, very bad.
Yeah, no, in general, I agree with you. It makes sense for the majority, the thoughts of the majority to impress upon the politicians that lead to change happening slowly, not just a quick change. But I would challenge it a bit, because I would say that if a society is going to be started, let's say people are living in nature and they decide they want to get groups together and they want to have laws and start a society, I would say that something like not being able to kill or physically harm somebody would be an important law, whether the majority wanted it or not, because there would be the mutual benefit. So somebody that might think it's okay to beat people up that offend them, they might want that option to beat people up, but they would benefit from not being allowed to be beat up themselves. So you have this mutual benefit where you just can't physically do anything to anybody that doesn't want that done to them.
Okay.
And I watched this debate recently where Destiny was debating a couple Muslim guys, and the Muslim guys were saying that they thought it was perfectly clear that if somebody insults their God,
Mm-hmm.
or insults Muhammad,
Mm-hmm.
that it's reasonable not
Yeah.
to kill the person, but to physically harm the person. And same
Yeah.
if you insult somebody's parents, it should be perfectly fine and accepted in society to
Mm.
beat up a person that insults your parents. And I would say
Yeah.
even if like 90% of people that were living in an area, if they thought that same thing, it's still reasonable to have a law against it.
Um, so I think there's um, a potential, especially at a very small group level, for a leader to temporarily impose some kind, or when I say temporarily, you'll understand, to impose some kind of fiat like that, and then have people see very quickly how that works, how well that works, and then say, oh my God, okay, yeah, now we're kind of our little community is humming along much better, and then they essentially come to agree through the demonstration of the effectiveness of that kind of top-down rule at a certain small enough level. But what I would disagree that that's a reasonable political status quo to try to maintain if time goes on and the majority of the population continues to disagree with that kind of rule. That's I don't think that's a very very defensible kind of politics.
Yeah,
Even if they're believing something really crazy like Islam, or
yeah. You
like
think
those aspects of Islam. Okay, that
the
you
politics should
outlined.
follow the majority? Is
Um,
is your claim?
I think well, it's not that the politics should follow the majority. It's that morality, moral and intellectual change should be in the lead, and
Mm.
politics should be a sort of a heavily constrained, smaller dimension that is entrusted with preventing the most immediate kinds of breakdown of order, so that the main project of the Enlightenment, the intellectual advancement, the free moral advancement of individuals and free associations of people can do the work of progress.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay, and so you feel that at this point, if you could snap your fingers and make it illegal to eat animal products, you wouldn't do so. But
huh?
if the major
What does that mean? Snap my fingers and make consumption of animal products go away.
no
Yes,
no no make
I
it
would snap my finger.
no make it illegal
Oh,
like
so
like
that's the thing. You can't just say make it illegal. What does
mhm,
make it illegal mean? Who are the police? How much power do they have? What are they going to do to the people
mhm.
who still believe that consuming animal products is fine or
For sure.
necessary or whatever?
For the
And what
hypothetical
are
we
those
could
people going to do in response?
Yeah, for the hypothetical, we can fill in the blank. So I won't use South Korea as an example. You're in South Korea, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say the U.S. though, just so I can picture it a little better. But let's say in the U.S., for some reason, you were able to be the authority of the government for the day, and you could just decide that for the next 20 years, it's going to be illegal to do this. And it's something like if anybody kills an animal to eat it, they go to jail for a year, and if somebody milks an animal or takes its eggs from it, they go to jail for 6 months, and it's
Mm.
just something random like that.
And what's the policy in place to how much are we going to intrude in societies to prevent the organized crime um, networks that are going to provide animal products to all the people that still demand it?
Mhm.
What's that policy going to be? Um, are police going to
Yeah.
be able to just walk down the streets? How many more police are we going to hire? You
Mhm.
know, you prison for a year. What's that going to do to an economy? And then
Yeah. No, I don't know. So that's what I'm saying.
where are we going to build the prisons? And
Yeah, so that's what I was just making sure that I was under the right impression that you wouldn't want to do this. So my question becomes, would you want to if the perception of the majority changes? We have these philosophical conversations with each other. It becomes more popular. 80% of people become vegan, and therefore the laws
Yeah.
would just make the few have to change with the majority. Would at that point you want the law to change, or are you
Um,
in general you want as few laws as possible?
Closer to the latter, although I would I would say when the number percentage in the population gets high enough, it's more like the law just does change,
Yeah,
then
but
then
you could still
then the
want it
question
to
of
or not want it to.
um
Like the majority might want cocaine to be illegal, but
yeah,
you could say that you think people should have that freedom if they want,
you
and so
know
you could give your personal take on it.
again, the concept of legal and illegal doesn't provide most of the information. It almost provides none of the information, because you have to talk about what you actually think you're going to do, or what it would be a good thing to do to
Yeah.
to,
Okay.
to to act against the illegal thing. It's like this is kind of how I feel about the way people use rights sometimes. If I say like, hey man,
Hmm.
you didn't have a right to come up and push me, that
Hmm.
doesn't tell anybody most
Hmm.
of what I think about that situation,
Yeah.
because
No, and
because
I'm with.
saying hey man, you didn't have the right to come up and push me, it doesn't say, would it be right for me to push you back? Would it be right for me to like just swear at you and use
Mhm.
words? Would it be right for me to punch you? Would it be right for
Mhm.
me to just like shoot you dead
Yeah.
because you pushed
No.
me? All of that is still open when you use words like that. So you need to
Mhm.
clarify what kind of things you want to entrust the state with doing, right?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I completely agree, especially with the word rights. But let's see if I agree with the legal idea. So I think it should be illegal to punch people in the face. Now, I don't know if somebody should get a year in jail for punching in the face. I don't know if they should
Mm,
get a month. I don't know if they should get a fine. But something that would deter people from doing it in the future, and that would be the reason. And so I could declare in the same way that I'm asking you with something like cocaine if you'd want to make it illegal or not illegal. I don't need to know every possible detail there is to what you think should take place and how many police officers they need to be. But I do think it's reasonable to pick something and declare that as best to be illegal in some form.
uh, I mean, I guess so when you articulate an ideal, but you have to be really careful because there are a lot of people who are going to have incentive structure to latch on to the violence of the state, and
Mhm.
never want to let it go. Um, could I change it a little bit, because we haven't talked
Yeah.
about libertarianism at all, and I
Yeah.
sort of gradually
Before you do
realized,
that, though, you were talking about the abortion conversation you saw of mine, and you did a timestamp, and you told me that I said something to the effect of if something's immoral, it should be illegal. And I think
yeah,
there's a misunderstanding or just miswording on my part.
okay,
Is there
okay,
any form of question you can ask to try to figure out my actual stance on that? Because I'm thoroughly convinced by Sam Harris that lying is immoral. I don't think people should lie, but I don't think somebody should go to jail for lying. So I think there
um,
was a misunderstanding
yeah,
about
this
that
is almost
immoral
the
thing.
point I was trying to transition to. I can phrase it in libertarian terms. If you consider
Hmm.
yourself mostly a libertarian, then this will totally
Yeah.
make sense. Okay, so the non-aggression principle, or non-initiation of force in libertarian terms, um, do you think that it provides necessary and sufficient conditions for violent or forceful retaliation, or do you think it only provides necessary condition? In other words, do you think that any time uh, someone's someone is aggressed against, someone's rights are violated, that
Hmm.
that it's appropriate for them to respond with force? Or do you think that it's only the case that if no rights are violated, if there's no initiation of force, then we should not use force for things like recreational drug use or consensual pornography or what have you. But so that's the necessary condition.
Mhm.
We don't we
I
don't
thought
use
you were
government force to
initially.
prohibit. Okay,
I thought you were
but
talking about people to people force, and now I realize you're talking about government force. So, but
yeah,
sorry, go on.
well, both. I think
Okay.
in both cases, I my position is that something like the non-aggression principle provides a necessary condition for retaliatory force.
Mhm.
You don't impose that force in conditions where there was no initial aggression, but it
Mhm.
doesn't provide a sufficient condition. It doesn't say that every time somebody violates me or violates someone else, that the proper the morally ideal response is some kind of force. There are many violations that ought to be responded to by more conversation, more moral pressure, more appeals to empathy and things like this.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
right,
well, I'll just say I feel to an extreme almost that that the government, law enforcement, should step in and try to deter just about any violation of
hmm.
human rights to not be to
Hmm.
not be have anything physical forced upon them. So even to the level of just tapping on one's shoulder. If somebody comes up and taps on my shoulder and I say, "I really want you to stop doing that," and then they just keep doing it, and that's caught on camera. Obviously, it's a silly thing, and it would be somebody just trying to like irritate me. But I don't think we should ever force anybody to do anything. I don't think people should ever be able to spit on somebody, punch somebody, kick them, slightly push them. Now it has to be known that it's unwanted. If somebody accidentally brushes against somebody walking past them, I don't think it really matters. But I do think that it should be well known in a society that you cannot physically touch somebody
Yeah.
that does not want it, and I think the law should step in some form.
So I say again that cannot right there. It's a short little word. It kind of sounds clear when you don't think about it that much, but then you
Mm-hmm.
think about it and it's extremely vague. It goes from here to way out here, and cannot can mean like people around ought to say, "Hey, man, that's really uncool." You're not gonna be invited to my parties, and I'm not gonna like you very much if you keep doing shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
It can go from that to send in the SWAT team. This guy
Mm-hmm.
kept tapping somebody on the shoulder when they said they didn't want it,
Yeah.
and I think it's very contrary to what I think of as the heart of a libertarian attitude to
Well, well,
to
I
go
think
from there was a rights violation to what's the word like DEFCON 1,
yeah. So
right?
we would want to make sure that the right laws are being put in place that are appropriate. If we are voting in our politicians and our politicians are putting into law that if somebody taps somebody on the shoulder, then the SWAT team comes in, tackles them to the ground, and can knock their teeth out, then we would want to put in different politicians. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
that any amount of force needed to be used to seal the law. If somebody for
Mm.
tapping somebody on the shoulder when they say they do not want to be tapped on the shoulder is going to get 1 day in jail. Then when the police officer goes to the person, they have their protocol they do they say, put your hands behind your back. If they fight and don't put their hands behind their back, then obviously if you live in the society and you agree to live here and you're following the laws of the society, then that means when the police officers say, put your hands behind your back, you follow it. And if you don't, then I honestly mostly don't care what happens to the person. But I would say when you have the element of a law exists, when it's broken, you have the punishment that exists, or at least you have the next step, which would be like court or something. Then those exact things happen, and the government also can't break the law of force aside from forcing that law to be followed through. So I don't think a police officer should be able to tap somebody on the shoulder that doesn't want to be tapped on the shoulder. They just follow through with the necessary movements to make it a free society.
I mean, I think this is a very dangerous attitude to have. I think, it greatly underestimates the power and the greater efficiency of rational persuasion using language and appeal to empathy and free moral development of individuals and communities that nonviolent resistant advocates, Gandhi and MLK and many other people have, Quakers, anti-war Quakers have articulated over the years. And, when MLK has famously said, we'll meet physical force with soul force. He wasn't,
Okay, well, let's take the most extreme. Sorry to cut you off.
He actually believed that soul force was powerful. And
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, well, let's go to an extreme, because I want, if I'm wrong, I want to be convinced as soon as possible. So the least harmful intentional physical contact with another person that's unwanted would be my example of tapping on the shoulder. So what happens in your world of somebody's tapping me on the shoulder and I say, don't do that. Please don't do that. Just don't even be near me. And then let's say I'm the bigger person and I walk away from them and I'm in a public area. I can go down 20 feet and they follow me and they tap me on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like in your world of a perfect society, where not everything physical unwanted is illegal, what happens?
People tell them it's wrong. People shame them.
And then what? What if they keep doing it and they don't care about the shame?
Well, then you have a big argument about morality in society using reason, using social pressure, using economic pressure. Then you have what kind of was the status quo about the abortion debate under Roe v. Wade, where the moral argument and attempts at moral persuasion on both sides were still going on. And because in the real world, it's not just a silly thought experiment about somebody who won't stop tapping on the shoulder, but it's disagreements, large disagreements about the moral reality, like with abortion right now. And when you cross that line into state force instead of moral and intellectual persuasion, then we're on the verge of war. We're on the verge of outright war between different U.S. states, because one side got just enough of a foothold to follow the path of using criminal law to outlaw abortion. And I understand their arguments for why it's very morally wrong, but they're not in a position to create a stable society. They're going to create outright warfare, because the people who are being threatened with long prison sentences for supporting abortions in whatever way they do, transporting someone across state lines, what are they going to do? They're going to arm themselves. They're going to empower their states to criminally punish people from the prohibiting states. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it's not going to be good.
Well,
I know that it's not going to be better than the moral argument that was happening before Roe v. Wade got overturned and we got to the position we're in now.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. So I want to point out that that I agree with you that moral and intellectual discussions to further the advancements of how our fellow citizens think about things is important, and probably the most important thing to do, or one of. But I also want to point out that I don't need an answer to this, because I have a specific question I want to go to in a second, but just to have something flowing through your head is... I think it should be illegal to circumcise babies. There will be people that want to circumcise them.
Very opposed to it. Yeah.
Okay. There will be people that want to circumcise them, but I don't think they should be allowed to, similar to you have the situation with abortion. So not everybody's going to agree. But what I think we can do, if we pinpoint on this hypothetical, do you think if somebody punched somebody in the face, it should be illegal to punch somebody in the face. And I know it's
Well,
complicated, so
uh,
lay it out however you want.
so again, the word illegal is vague,
Okay.
but yet, yes, I think that there should be laws that provide for, the ability to imprison somebody for punching somebody in the face. But
Okay.
all the steps along the way, like the people who witnessed the punch in the bar room, maybe the bartender has sort of more authority and is a sober person there. And then, like, if I think about my
Let's say
hometown,
it's
the
caught on
deputy
film.
arriving on the scene. Okay, it's not just about how much we know, how certain we are that this would happen. Okay, it's
Mhm.
about what's the best way to resolve this situation. And yes, there are many cases where two guys who know each other in something like my small town get into some kind of altercation, a little bit of shoving, and then one guy punches the other guy, where far and away the best resolution to that situation is,
Let's
people
say
of
both
sounder
people,
minds break it up, get them home, get them to
for
sleep it
sure.
off, and then
There's,
they talk about it the next day and nobody goes to jail.
yeah,
That's very often the best resolution
in
to
that
somebody getting punched
situation,
in
I
the
agree with
face.
you. But let's say these people don't like each other, and the one person wants to press charges.
Okay, then
Okay, so the
what?
punch is illegal, right? But the tap on the shoulder is not. So here's my thought I want to play out. Somebody's tapping me on the shoulder, not illegal. I punch them in the face because
Yeah,
it's been going on for two
well,
hours.
right.
I can't stop them. They're going to keep following me wherever I go. I punch them in the face. If they press charges, would I be in trouble even though I had what I think is good reason to punch?
Well,
And it's because they did this bad thing, but I can't be considered legally having had good reason because legally they weren't doing anything wrong.
Well, that's why I say that people that are involved in the process ought to have the kind of common sense checks and balances, and not apply these categorical rules about, the rule book, the law book code says that that taps are never a violation and punches are always a violation.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to even go to tap. I mean, the categorical distinction between not physically contacting somebody and physically contacting somebody, I'd say, is the same exact thing. What if somebody's like hurling a bunch of slurs at you and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually you punch them in the face, you know?
Yeah, see, so I don't think that we will ever be able to figure out a way to make words illegal. I don't think it's best. So I don't think there's any kind of a slur that should allow somebody to be physical with another person.
Okay. So let's just change your tap on the shoulder into a punch,
Okay.
okay? The tap and the punch into words and a tap.
Yeah.
So person A is just like hurling a bunch of like all kinds of slurs at person B and just
Uh-huh.
following them. And then person B just like pushes them away or
Yeah.
whatever.
I think
Not
that push
not
should be
not like a
illegal.
punch. You think so
Yeah.
I mean, so you think your argument about what if taps lead to a punch seems just exactly parallel to what if a bunch of aggressive slurs lead to a tap or a push. If like
Mhm.
you you are fine saying put the person who pushed without causing like significant pain, the person who pushed the person who had just spent 10 minutes uh shouting
Yeah.
slurs at them, that person who pushed should go to jail.
Hmm. Yeah, so it does become complicated because I think even though I'm completely pro free speech to almost an extreme, I think there does have to be a factored in element of maybe harassment. So if you follow somebody, whether it's the tap or it's the slurs, you have to be able to be in public without constantly being followed and harassed. And I don't know what the
Okay.
exact answer is, but what I will say is that there's almost no way to figure out what set of words works for everyone. Somebody could just be hanging out with their fellow Christian and talking about Jesus, and
Mhm.
atheists could be so thrown off by that they
Yeah.
say, "Don't talk about Jesus in public," or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you could take the vegan case, if we were just
mhm,
talking about like the slaughterhouse footage that just filmed
mhm.
or whatever, some activist, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be really disturbing to a lot of people who are being, morally implicated in what they're hearing. And
Right.
how
Yeah.
far away do we have to be from, whatever? Because
And so
we're telling the truth.
yeah.
And
Well, and so I think that the element would be following somebody. So if you're just talking about, let's say somebody is doing something that we'd both consider horrible, which is being like extra racist for no reason, in clear earshot of the type of people they're talking about. This might be horrible, but if they are not following somebody, then I would consider no words mattering, aside from if we
yeah,
want to give the right to a public or to a private business to remove somebody from their premises for whatever reason. That's a whole different thing. But if
I
you're
mean,
in public and you're just sitting on a public bench or something, I don't think, as long as you're not following somebody, that element should matter. But the tapping,
yeah.
I feel like the tapping must matter. But
I very much agree with you in the words with respect to speech, but that's because I'm very much disinclined towards using physical force, using violence at all. So but I do I do, this probably goes with just being a consequentialist, but I do kind of see a natural continuum from words getting more aggressive, and then also various forms of physical contact going from very, very mild to more aggressive and more harmful. And I don't really understand why people feel they need this completely sharp line. I understand why if you it's kind of like, when does life begin? When does personhood begin? And people feel like it can't be continuous, but they need to find a sharp line. If you need to find a sharp line, then I understand why people either say conception or birth. Okay. Because the reality is that development is continuous.
yeah.
And if you feel like you need a sharp line between when force was initiated and when it wasn't, then I understand why people draw the line at anything that doesn't involve physical contact versus any form of physical contact. That's a natural place to draw a line. But why do you need a sharp line?
Well,
Why
I
do
think
you
people
cognitively need that?
well,
Instead of common sense says that the
yeah.
way that you can sort of aggress or interfere with somebody else is, there's a continuous increase
Yeah.
in the possibility of verbal abuse and of physical interaction.
I think you need it for protection, because somebody might think, "Oh, I barely shoved him. I didn't hurt him. There's no blood. I just shoved him." And that person might actually think that's morally fine. And so if you're
Well,
in a society where
why you have
everybody is
observers.
aware, what's that?
You have observers using common sense,
Well, yeah, but imagine the difference between if me and you, let's say we didn't know each other, but I heard you like making fun of my mother or something,
Yeah.
and I shove you, and let's say you're not too affected by it, but let's say the same thing happened, and it was vegan gains and a 5 foot, 100 pound girl.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say woman, not
Yeah,
girl.
yeah.
But and then she said something offensive, and he pushed her. Now she didn't fall over. She didn't. There's no blood drawn. But maybe she's terrified that this giant is going to follow her home and whatever, because she's been physically touched. So if we have to have distinctions between it's fine because men did it, and it's not fine if a man does it to a woman, or all these different things, or women think it's all right to pull each other's hair, but men think it's not all right to do this, that, or the other. We have to have a line where we say our society says this is unacceptable, and we follow it. I think we need that.
So your example of changing the type of people, I mean, what if, the expression freedom to swing your fist ends where my nose begins, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What if somebody who looks like Vegan Gains is angry and shouting and waving his arms around in a way that expresses anger in front of somebody who looks like the other person that you described?
Oh,
That's not going to instinctively terrify them. We're mammals,
Yeah. No, that will, and I think we should be aware of that kind of thing. I really think we should be aware of if we're frightening people. If I'm outside and it's close to nighttime and I see a woman walking by herself, I will do whatever I can to not seem threatening. I will step aside, let her walk past, whatever. And so I think we should be aware of that. But as far as legal stuff goes, what can somebody get away with without being in trouble for a thing. So let's imagine that the vegan gains thing is happening in a public area, that it's not a privately owned business, but there happens to be people just like hanging out in this park area or something. Then I would say that this thing shouldn't be illegal, and that we should have a pretty well documented way that we describe harassment and what's that thing called, like stalking,
Right.
where if she went a certain direction and he kept going towards her, at some point there would be an element where we'd say it's reasonable to have a restraining order or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I don't think being scared can be enough. But I think when you add the physical element and the scared in, it's reasonable to have the physical line be drawn at nothing unwanted and intentional and physical.
Okay. I think the really main point of misunderstanding or disagreement lies in your phrasing of what people should be allowed to do without getting in trouble. And it's not that I think people should be able to do a lot of stuff without getting in trouble. It's that I think there are many tiers of getting in trouble, and the most important tiers take precedence in a healthy society over criminal law and the police. So what I think is people who are being assholes in all kinds of ways, verbal and then like the lower level physical, they should be getting in trouble, but they should be getting in trouble from social pressure of the people around them, words addressed to them, appeals to their shame.
That should happen as well, but that will not necessarily make
religious
them
leaders
go
or
along with
whatever,
it.
moral leaders, and then
Yeah.
and then economic pressure and boycotts or whatever, insofar as it happens involving businesses, and then like the criminal law, the use of violence by the state should be like a last resort for the things where it's absolutely not possible to
It might need to be a
simultaneous.
It might need to be simultaneous, because I think all those things are right. I think if people do wrong things, you should make them aware of it, try to get them not to, whatever, have interventions, have a community that like views each other as they want to respect each other and convince each other to not do these horrible things. But if they're not going to be convinced, like if you're right, if there was some weird case study where 100% of the time people were convinced, that's one thing. But as soon as there's one that's not, you have to have the legal system
I'm not
step
sure.
in.
I think,
and I think it's
think
a
social pressure
removal
can-
from society is the thing. Now, tapping on a shoulder shouldn't make somebody removed from society forever. But if you have a list of rules of what you cannot do in a society based on mutual benefit, and then the law is there to remove you from being able to do that. If you kill somebody, that's extreme, and you need to. I don't think people need to be punished. I for the most part, don't believe in much of free will. It's that person probably wishes they weren't born somebody capable of killing so easily, but they still have to be removed so they can't cause that harm again. So they're put in jail. If you rape somebody, then maybe you're not in jail for life, but maybe you're in jail for 5 years or whatever. If you punch somebody, maybe you're in jail for a couple months and you have things labeled as misdemeanors or whatever they're labeled as. And you have these various different things that tells your society, you can't do these things. And as of now, this is what happens to you to deter yourself from doing it again and others from doing it. You're removing somebody from society that is not acting appropriate in the society based on the society's laws.
I mean, I wanted to also point out, these societies very close in history, some of them that, needed people who were willing to lead a change towards peace and stability and reconciliation, where there were literal killers on the various sides. Nelson Mandela, killer. He's a killer.
Interesting.
You want to talk about how justified his killing was, but he was a killer. And and there were killers that he was fighting against, and rapists. And what needed to happen is people, including him, to try to lead lead a reconciliation that focused on the future, and didn't just say, anybody who we regard as a killer or who killed somebody in our tribe or whatever, we've got to levy the maximum penalty on them. A lot of people had to go free and had to continue to have power in the society who, were, as point of fact, killers, and who there were other people who, who hated them, despised them for what they did, and various sides had to come together and take those steps to move towards bringing things back into the Enlightenment realm of conversation and social relations, away from violence being the cure. The troubles in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm.
People whose family was killed by the other, and you couldn't just and you couldn't reach any kind of resolution by putting all the killers in prison. You had to let people who you regarded as killers be free and be part of the same society. And there needed to be people who had the wisdom to rise above this endless blood feud and lead the move back to civil society, no matter what the level of, maybe not no matter what, but regardless of very serious violations that all of the sides were doing. Mm-hmm. And even regardless of what anybody's conception of the original offense was that got the thing going, there had to be kind of leaders that would bring the society back to an enlightened civil society, away from endless violence.
No, I think you're right in a lot of ways. It's complicated. It's really hard to know for sure, because it's hard to put yourself in those shoes. While you were explaining the blood feuds in Ireland, it was making me think of the time when people would burn witches at the stake. It's like, in a sense, you would want to just it'd be best if that society said, you cannot burn people for thinking they are witches, and then that's just a flat out law. But if 80% of the people in that society thought that you should burn witches, then having that law exist without convincing them otherwise is complicated. But at the same time, I don't know if there should be attempts to have societies and legal systems that attempt to override the occasional popular opinion that is very fucked up, like burning witches or blood feuds. It's a lot to think about. I do got to hop off here in about or 2 minutes, but
okay.
Throw out some last thoughts for sure.
Just got to bring it back to veganism and talk to vegan advocates here with the last point. When a movement, an ethical movement that's in the low single digits, like ethical veganism, uses the language of illegal, implies or says, we as soon as we can, we're going to use the criminal justice system to put you people that disagree with us in prison. It's different than just using the descriptive ethical terms like even saying animal holocaust, which I say all the time, saying that cows are raped, saying murder, saying enslavement and things like that. It's different when you say our go-to solution, our ideal solution is criminal law and imprisonment, when we are currently at 2% or something like that of the population. This is just non-serious. And what it conveys to me is, and I think to the carnists, is you're not really envisioning veganism becoming the ethical norm in our society. Because if you were envisioning that, then you'd be like openly declaring war in advance. You know,
Mhm.
you like the shit that is going to happen with abortion right now in the U.S. Pretty soon. You're saying like we're amassing our forces, and then as soon as we can, we're gonna get the guns and we're gonna go after you with the guns. And
Mhm.
and if you disagree with us, man, you better get more guns, and
Yeah.
you better start shooting back. And when
Yeah. No.
we put your side in the hospital, you put ours in the morgue. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying when you say that. And for a movement that has like 1 to 2% of the population to be talking like that, it just
Mhm.
shows me that the vegans who are who are speaking that way are just envisioning veganism remaining this tiny group that will never have the power to actually impose anything with violence
Yeah.
that way. Because if that's all it's going to remain, then nobody's ever going to be afraid of us threatening violence by using the
Yeah.
word illegal. But if I legitimately believe that ethical veganism is going to make the case. Now we got all the video documentation. We've got so many strong voices from all demographics of society. We've got the intellectual, the rock solid intellectual arguments, and we've got the new products that make going vegan very easy and convenient. And all of these things are, I think, really really going to make this take over and actually
Mhm.
succeed. And so my envision of a civil society becoming vegan uh, is sincere. and
Yeah.
and I think if if you actually believe that veganism is going to steadily grow and be 10%, 15%, 20%, and then start to snowball, uh, you have to have a mentality of strong reconciliation with people's past of animal exploitation,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
a
definitely.
strong reconciliation with family and friends as more and more people are brought into the reality of ethical veganism. And the language of open warfare, the language of, we're going to seize political power where we can, and then we're going to empower our police to bust down your doors and hold you at
Mhm.
gunpoint on the floor in front of your kid and haul you off and put you in jail.
Yeah.
Even though the thing that we're trying to stop is the worst thing in history, when you talk like that, you can't be seriously envisioning that your side is gonna grow large enough to threaten
Mhm.
the other side. Because if you did, then you would at least keep quiet about it. You'd at least keep it a
Mhm.
secret.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're
Um.
telling the other side, get ready for war before we get big enough that we start attacking you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so since you brought up worst thing in history, I want to ask you one wild hypothetical to get you to say something outrageous, because Vegan
Okay.
Gains did this to me.
Okay.
Well, Vegan Gains made me admit that I wouldn't sacrifice myself to have made the Holocaust not happen. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going to
crazy.
get you to do something similar. Wait, would you?
I would
Um,
sacrifice myself to prevent something at the scope of the Holocaust to happen.
okay,
Yes,
like
very, very immediately.
right now, if 6 million people were going to die, you would press a button to end your own life to save them. What if it
Yeah.
was 1 million?
So there's
Okay.
there's a limit.
Um,
But
but
so
that wasn't going
the
to be my
one
question
one
anyways,
one
but
very important thing to say about that applies to all these thought experiments is
uh-huh.
the question, Jeremy, what would you do? So the psychological question is not at all the same question as, Jeremy, what would be the morally right thing to do?
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
But real quick, okay, so we were talking about animal holocaust being the worst thing that has ever happened. So let's imagine for the next 2,000 years, the same amount of animals that have been killed over the past 2,000 years would just happen over the next 2,000 years. And then let's
A killing would
imagine,
happen. Okay.
yeah, yeah, just the
Yeah.
amount of billions and trillions we kill every year.
Yeah.
That goes on for 2,000 years. But also, at some point within the 2,000 years, there could be something like the Holocaust where there's 6 million people, it doesn't matter race or anything, are going to be killed by some maniac in some country. If you
by
could
the U.S.
only
government,
press a what's that?
by the U.S. government
Yeah.
in
If
countries that
you
our people don't care about.
if you could only press a one button to save one of those situations, what would you do? Would you press the button
Oh,
and make the world become vegan, and then the next 2,000 years and so on, there will be no more killing of animals, or would you, and therefore the 6 million are
mean,
still going to die, or you would press the button that saves those 6 million, but we would have to figure out veganism in the future.
I already say that the animal holocaust is the worst thing that's ever happened, and that within every couple of years, it's more unnecessary suffering than all the suffering from all causes of all hominids who have ever existed. Not just the injustice, not just the genocides and the enslavement, but all the suffering from all causes. You know, what we
Was
do to
that your
animals
answer?
in a short. So that's already how I talk about the past and the present. So yeah, yes.
I think it's
So
complicated
preventing
to
that amount of suffering to non-human animals in the trillions,
Mhm.
quadrillions is a higher priority than preventing 6 million painful human deaths. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to answer a question like that about the past, because it's a weird idea to imagine people that have died having not died, and then they would have lived their lives out and the world would be different. So I like to look at it as more of a future thing, but it shouldn't change the morals or what one does. I don't think I would, and I think I base it on the idea that you probably heard me say of, even though I don't want animals to be harmed or killed, me not knowing their level of a will for the future, and knowing the at
Yeah.
least what I know of a human will for the future, I do value humans more, even 6 million humans versus 100 trillion animals. But at some point there is a level where I might change that up. I don't know what the comparison would be. I would rather 10 humans get punched in the face than 3 chickens die, you know? And so I
Yeah.
don't know where the cutoff is, but I don't think I would sacrifice 1 million people in the future. Or I don't think I would not take that chance to save the 6 million people, but I could be convinced otherwise in the
To
future.
me,
But
the harder consequentialist question is sort of like how much longer, how much faith do we hold out for human moral improvement fast enough, given the staggering numbers of non-human animal
oh
torture
man,
and death. How much longer do we trust that we're going to get to that? We're going to get to that future. How much time do we allow this to continue? I mean,
yeah.
you and I, like, nobody has the power to, at least we
Mhm.
don't. Maybe Biden does to destroy all life on the planet or whatever. But how
Mhm.
yeah,
Um,
how much time before just saying, like, you know killing all humanity, or even killing all life, because the torture is so great under the status quo, is
mhm.
better than preserving the status quo. I
Yeah.
don't I don't
Well,
know how to answer that
I
at
keep,
all. It's a terrifying question.
yeah, I keep
I go
saying I
back and
gotta
forth.
go, but then you keep inspiring me to ask you new questions, and which I'm going to do in
You're
one
welcome.
second. But before I do that, somebody said strange for someone who is against suffering. They're saying it's strange that I wouldn't sacrifice myself for 6 million people. Um, but yes, I am against suffering, but I am mostly pro myself. Everything I do in life is for myself. Like I want to live. So there's that. But the thing you inspired me to ask you now is, and
We should
I
talk
so
about Ayn Rand sometime, because I
we
think
should. I love
I
Ayn
think
Rand.
you're trying to reconcile her form of ethical egoism, which I think is not really ethical egoism, with other kinds of ethics, and
Yeah,
it gets you to weird places.
we'll go over that at some point for sure.
that's
Um,
that's for the far future.
all right. But okay, so I've gone back and forth on if I think I would sniper some lions to save some
Mhm.
zebras, but I'm at the point where I kind of want to let nature take its course. Lions can eat zebras. So here's the question: if animals that naturally want to eat animals, because they have no empathy and they're willing to do it, is acceptable, then just because us vegans exist that don't want to harm animals, if you just take a human that has zero empathy, they are just a psychopath, but they're not going to harm humans in our society, but they're a psychopath and their brain is somewhat similar to a lion, and they're going to go off and kill some animals and eat them just like a lion is because they have no empathy. Why do we treat one animal different than another?
Oh, why do we treat the lion different than a human psychopath?
Yeah, like why don't we look at that human
only
psychopath?
animal killing psychopath?
Yeah, you can just take a 1-to-1. You have a psycho. They're both in Africa too. You have a psychopath human that's killing zebras and eating
You're
them
gonna
raw.
get called a racist for that, man.
Oh, they're in Africa, but the person is white.
Okay.
Or the lion is in the U.S. I don't care where they're at. But you have a human of any gender and race, and then you have a lion of any fur color, and the human's a psychopath of sorts. And both the lion and the human are just finding zebras, killing them, and eating them raw. Do we look at that human and say, because humans as a species are capable of reasoning, that we force that unreasoning, unempathetic human to give in to the rest of our ways? Or do we say, that's a wild animal? That human is a wild human. He's going to do that thing just like lions.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm a consequentialist. I'm not going to move away from consequentialism when it comes to wild predation, wild animal suffering. My arguments against it are we don't know how to do anything about alleviating that suffering that might not have like huge disastrous side effects. But I've already said, in one of your previous talks, Inspire Me, talking about these sort of human-like, like hominids that weren't quite Homo sapiens, and we found them on an island somewhere, and they were like doing horrible things, torturing each other or whatever. And I said, no, we shouldn't think that we have to be, or we should be hands off with them just because they're not technically our species, just because they've got some like base pair differences. Like if they're inflicting massive suffering and we can stop it effectively, we should stop it effectively. But it doesn't matter. I think I said it doesn't matter whether something technically satisfies the definition of our same species. It matters what their degree of sentience is and what the various harms and pleasures that they're experiencing. So the only thing I'd say about that human versus that lion is maybe like a human sociopath. Like this is something that comes up in consequentialism a lot. It's kind of one of the tricky sticking points is like if there's like if there's a rapist and you're saying, okay, well, of course the act is wrong because the harm outweighs the benefit or the pleasure or whatever. That's logical. But then what if you change the situation by the rapist getting like more intense pleasure? Does it make it less bad? And I think I have the normal strong intuition that no, it doesn't make it less bad. It might make it more bad. So consequentialist has to be ready to say that like certain kinds of pleasure, because of the relation that they bear to the situation, actually make the world worse. And certain kinds of pain, especially like regret, remorse for something that you did wrong, is a form of pain or suffering, but it makes the world better that you had the remorse versus not.
I heard that. It's funny you mentioned that because like a week ago I heard that for the first time. That idea of if you could press a button and make a rapist feel more joy, would you do it if it was not going to, or feel more pleasure? Would you do it if it was not going to cause them to do any other extra harm?
I mean, it's theoretically hard. It's not hard for me to say that. Of course, I have the intuition that no, the world is worse when the rapist has more pleasure.
But
it's
weird.
It's theoretically hard for a
thing.
Consequentialist.
If it doesn't change any other future outcome, I don't think so. I don't want to have a bad person necessarily feel good, because I think everybody should just feel good. But I'm only saying that to sound better. I would want everybody to feel as good as possible. I think bad people need to be removed from society, but I think
Yeah.
every human while alive should feel as good as possible, and not as a reward. But if I knew that person, no matter what it was, let's not say rapist because it's so complicated, but let's just
Yeah.
say something else that's horrible or whatever. If somebody just murdered somebody and that person's going to die in 5 minutes, and I
You'd
could press
rather
a
that they
button and have
feel
them have a
glee.
whole bunch of joy,
Oh,
I would give them all the pleasure possible for that
yeah.
last 5 minutes.
Yeah. I want to make it
Because I
clear,
would do that with
Carson.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to make it clear. I don't hold the position that it's better for pain to happen to really bad people and it's bad for pleasure to happen to bad people. In general, I don't think it would be better. I
Just
don't
the
think it would be a
outcomes it
better
could
world
bring.
if the serial killer just like had horrible migraines the day before his execution, or like stubbed his toe a bunch of times. Those are not things that make the world better for me just
Yeah.
because it was an evil person. The reason why I think it's worse for the rapist or to be getting more pleasure out of committing that assault is because of the relationship that the pleasure has to the larger experience of that crime.
Yeah.
It's not just the fact that the
repeating the
bad person
crime.
was having pleasure. It's the fact that the pleasure is like intricately woven into this temporal experience of committing a horrible crime against somebody else. It's a bad kind of pleasure because of the role that it plays in the structure. And if the same person, committed that horrible crime and then just like went home and ate like some berries and they tasted good, like I wouldn't say that, oh, the world is a worse place because there was this taste pleasure, because it doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any like logical connection to this horrible crime.
Yeah. If anything, it might make them prefer to eat berries than to rape. So that'd be good.
Something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, great talk, man. I wish I had more time. I wish I didn't fail at starting our talk when we should have. But let's do another one soon, and we should come up with a lot of crazy challenges for each other. So
yeah, sounds good, dude.
All right, take care.
Thanks for spending more time with me.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, take care.
Good night.